There's one rule in life that you can always count on, and that is, in Denzel we trust. So The Equalizer 2 continues the story of Robert McCall as he continues his quiet life, avenging and defending those in need when a friend of his gets killed and he is put on the hunt to find the identity of the murderer. Man, I'll tell you what, 2018 has been one hell of a year. This is like the year of the return of the kick-ass, throwback, violent as hell action movie, and I love it. So the first Equalizer was a movie that, for whatever reason, I remember just thinking it was okay, but I rewatched it about 2 weeks ago in preparation for seeing this sequel, and I don't know what happened between then and watching it for the second time, but the second time I watched the first Equalizer, I was like, this is a kick-ass fucking movie. Why did I not remember this being so badass? And now we have The Equalizer 2, Denzel Washington's first sequel ever, which is crazy to think about. So is it worth him saying, this is my first sequel ever? Was this something that was badass enough to pull Denzel back for one more? Or is this just a case of The Equalizer made some money, let's make a little bit more? Pleased to tell you, it's the first one, bitches. This is a really, really good sequel. I'm one of those people that I really love the genre that this is going for. I love just gritty action movies. I was one of 8 people on earth that loved Death Wish. Upgrade is still my favorite movie so far of the year. The Equalizer 2, John Wick, all of these little throwback kick-ass action series that we have going on nowadays is just candy for me. I love this fucking genre. And The Equalizer 2 continues the badassness of The Equalizer. First and foremost, we'll just go ahead and talk about it because you know it's gonna come up. Denzel, how is he? Is Denzel ever not fucking amazing? I mean, this dude is one of the greatest actors ever in the history of Earth. And every single movie that he is in, regardless if the movie is great or not, Denzel always brings it. He always brings charm, charisma, I mean, acting virtuoso. This dude just brings it every single time. And he brings so much to the character of the Equalizer because not only is this just a bad motherfucker that you just want to see him tear people apart, and there's plenty of that, we will get into it, but you also get a lot of different sides to this guy. You get kind of the grounded, gritty version of the Equalizer where he just seems like he's kind of stoic and just kind of reflecting on his past and his regrets and his sins. You also get the very caring, kind of like almost father-like or, you know, martyr-like version of the Equalizer where every single person that he sees that's in some kind of need or they're heading down a dark path, he always tries to step in and set them on the right path. You get the different versions of, like, he's just very friendly towards his ex-partner in the CIA.
Hey, you should let somebody else do this.
Like who?
Anybody.
You're right. I guess anybody could do it, but nobody does, Miles.
It's great you're helping all these random people stay off the radar.
All of these different elements that Denzel brings to this character is what makes this movie so good, because you could have a movie called The Equalizer that has all of the same badass fight scenes and take all of that out and it will still be successful for the most part for those of us that are action junkies, but Denzel just brings it to another level with not only his acting ability but just all of those elements that he brings to the character of Robert McCall that makes you really identify with him, want him to succeed, you feel for him. You don't want anything bad to happen to him, not only because he's your hero, but just because we need this guy. He's like Jesus. He's out there just helping everybody. And Denzel has also had a knack throughout his career of kind of latching on to a few different directors and having just a continued career of films with them. He did it a lot with Tony Scott before Tony Scott passed, and he's been doing it with Antoine Fuqua for a while. He did it with Training Day. We had Magnificent Seven, obviously these 2 Equalizer movies, and Denzel just knows what Antoine Fuqua or Tony Scott or whoever he's working with wants, and they want whatever Denzel's gonna bring. It's just a nice little synergy between actor and director that always shows up with magic on the screen. And let's talk about those action scenes. They're some of the best fighting that you're gonna see all year. I mean, Denzel himself is just a badass, the way that he plays this character, but the actual fight scenes, whenever he walks into a room and he clicks his little watch and you get that little Equalizer vision where he looks around and just sees where everybody's at, everything that he can use as a weapon, and then you just see the scene unfold and he just fucks up 7 dudes in like 30 seconds.
Come in. Get up. You know her name?
No, sir.
Her name is Amy. Give me your left hand. You ever see Star Trek? Very good. 5 stars for Amy.
They are thrilling, they are awesome, they're brutal and violent as hell, and it's just pure entertainment for an action junkie like me. And it's a great little pace breaker too whenever you have a movie that sometimes it gets kind of bogged into like the more cerebral side of Robert McCall, where he's trying to, you know, reflect on his past, and then you get the scenes where he's just trying to talk to this kid who feels like he's going to be going on the gang side of things, and he's trying to get him to go back to school, and then you get some badass action scene out of nowhere. I mean, it's just like a roller coaster. It's constant ups and downs and constant changing of pace. And I really like the story of this movie too. I think that's the one success that this movie does have over the first Equalizer, is that the story and how much more personal ties it has to the character of the Equalizer is a lot better to go along with the story than it was in the first movie, where it was just he saves this girl, these mobsters didn't like it, so now they're gonna come fuck him up, and he kind of surprises them with how much of a badass he is. You get Equalizer 2, and you have this character who it establishes very well in the first movie is like one of his only friends left after his wife had died previous to the first movie. She gets killed in this hotel room, and now he's trying to find out who the killer is. He has all these personal stakes, all this personal investment, and every little piece of the puzzle he puts together, which you know is going to eventually collide with Equalizer and whoever this villain is, with this standoff, this old Wild West standoff about, okay, I found out you're the killer and now I'm going to royally fuck you up. That is a really cool ride to go along, and I appreciated the change of pace and the much more personal touch that the story took in the Equalizer 2. And just like the first movie, this one has a kick-ass third act, which is crucial in a movie like this because, you know, all the different pace changes and all the different stories and story threads and side plots they go through, all that stuff is great, but if you don't have some big, huge, epic action culmination between hero and villain in the third act of a gritty action movie, it's gonna feel like it's missing something. The first Equalizer did it great with that whole Home Depot, you know, showdown and him just taking dudes out left and right in aisle 5. Now you get over into Equalizer 2 and it's in the middle of a hurricane, it's in this abandoned town. It has a much different aesthetic than a lot of your third acts will be in a movie like this, but it just plays out awesome. Even though you see a lot of things going on, you're like, dude, Denzel is going to fuck them up. There is a lot of really good tension that this weather setting that they implemented in the third act brings, because even though the characters in the movie, when they're trying to find who the Equalizer, where's he at with the fucking sniper scope, you're watching the movie and you're kind of looking too, you're like, shit, where's he at? Do they see him? Is he gonna jump out and they're gonna, oh, what's gonna happen? It was a great payoff. I will leave it at that. Now, with all that being said, there are some negatives with this movie, and I will say, I don't think this one is quite as good as the first Equalizer. There's certainly some things that it does better, like the story, but there's a few things that, even though they are a big positive in this movie, like the action sequences and some of the, you know, the different shades that Denzel brings to the character, they don't feel like they come together and they mesh as well with the pacing of the story and this new personal route that they're taking quite as well as the direction they took in the first Equalizer, where the first Equalizer was very simple. It was just this guy who seems like a regular guy finally gets tired of seeing this injustice and he decides to start being this protector for the public. And then you get insert bad guy and you have 2 acts of just waiting for this collide of hero and villain. And it works very well. And then you get into the second movie, it's much more personal, there's a lot more story direction, and you have kind of the same element, but at the same time, it feels like the movie is trying to do a lot of different things. It's trying to be old school action movie. It's trying to be kind of Denzel drama piece as far as his past and his past sins. It's trying to have the same story thread it had with Chloe Grace Moretz, but now with this young kid who lives in his apartment building who's kind of getting pulled towards the gangland. Denzel's trying to pull him away from it. Then you get the whole mystery of who the killer is. Then you have the reveal of who the killer is. And then you have the killer trying to kind of get into Denzel. There's just a lot of moving parts. And for the most part, it all comes together, but it just, the first Equalizer trimmed a lot of that fat. The Equalizer 2 struggles somewhat with it. Just a little bit. Just enough to notate, but just a little bit. And I will say, if you're on board for this whole mystery element of let's find out who the killer is, you're probably gonna be disappointed with the overall outcome, because for me personally, I knew who the killer was going to be as soon as the dude walked on screen. I've seen enough movies like this, and I don't feel like they really hid the identity enough in the execution that it was a little disappointing for me how easy it was to figure out when you had to go through another half hour of plot of Denzel trying to put pieces together when you as an audience member have already put the pieces together immediately. Now, I will say, on the flip side of that, once the reveal is there and you realize how much of a culmination this is all going to have in the third act and how badass it's going to be, it is something that pays off quite a bit. So you forgive that little, not so good mystery element very quickly. But it is worth saying that if you were trying to get invested in this as a murder mystery, it's not the most successful with that aspect of the film. And my final negative, and again, very small negative. My negatives for this film are very small, guys. Even though I'm notating it, I'm acknowledging that they're there. By no means. These are things that did not ruin the experience for me one bit. I still really enjoyed this movie. But this movie does try to ramp up some of the action set pieces a bit. And where the first movie was really good at kind of containing the activities of the Equalizer. You could believe and buy into it very quickly how this guy is able to stay in the shadows and stay out of, the police's eyes, and he takes people out quietly. He sets it up in a way where it doesn't look like he was ever there or anybody like him or anybody around him was ever there, and there's no suspicion drawn in his way whatsoever. When you get into Equalizer 2, there's a few segments in here where it just feels like he puts himself out in the open way more than he ever did in the first movie, and it's to the point where it really suspends your disbelief that somebody would not take this dude out or arrest him, or nobody would catch this guy on a fucking camera phone doing his shit. Like, it doesn't really quite make sense. It's kind of the action movie cheating that they do with a hero, where the hero has to prevail, so you have to kind of, some of the reality you have to set to the side a little bit and just let him go on his hero's journey. They did that a little bit better in the first movie. In this movie, it kind of stretches a little bit with your sense of reality that they're going for. Like when you have Denzel driving a car in the middle of a very populated city, running red lights, swerving in and out of traffic, smashing into 3 or 4 different cars in plain view of hundreds of people, and nobody comes knocking on his door asking what the fuck was that about, Denzel? Like, that scenes like that where you're kind of like, okay, whatever, we'll move on. But overall, guys, this was an awesome sequel. It was an awesome, gritty action movie. Another awesome movie to put on Denzel's huge list of awesome movies that he's been in. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great follow-up to The Equalizer. Definitely merits Denzel finally doing a sequel. It was not a disappointment whatsoever. And I will fully welcome an Equalizer 3. So Antoine Fuqua, Denzel, bring me more. Please, bring me more. Come on. 2, maybe 3 more. Gimme. And a lot of that is because of the director Antoine Fuqua. This is a guy that just kind of, it feels like he knows his strengths as a director. He likes these kind of gritty, really ultra-violent action movies that have a lot of tension, that have a lot of excitement, and he is great at putting those together and giving the fans what they want. He's never really been a critic darling, aside from Training Day to a degree, mostly because of the performance of Denzel. But you get movies where, like The Magnificent Seven, The Equalizer, Olympus Has Fallen, a great example, where it's just like this old school throwback action movie that for fans like me is everything you would want in that style of movie. And he does great with all of those elements. Having a great hero, having really good witty lines, placed in the right spot where it doesn't break tension, really intense scenes here and there, balls to the wall action, great fight sequences. I mean, this guy just has the strength for this genre, and I hope that he stays and does more like this, because he's just one of those guys that every time I see a film by Antoine Fuqua, I'm like, that shit's gonna be for me. I know it.
Look at you. Your father, your mama just didn't tell you.
So The Equalizer 2 is a great sequel and a great old school throwback, gritty, violent-ass action movie that is awesome if you were a fan of that genre. So know who you are, but if you are like me and love that shit, definitely get your ass out there and check this movie out, and whenever it hits the shelf, go out and buy it. So what do you guys think of The Equalizer 2? Were you a fan of the first one? Did this one deliver on everything you wanted a sequel to deliver on? Did it falter a little bit in those areas that I talked about? Or did you think this movie was actually better than the first movie? Put all of your thoughts on The Equalizer, whether you want a sequel, all that good shit, down in the comment section below, guys, and we will talk about it. Please like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. If you guys want to check out some social media links like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, those are all down in the video description, as well as the link to my Spreadshirt store for t-shirts like this one, and my Patreon page, which is a great way to give back to this channel, help this channel grow, and also get cool exclusive content for your eyes only if you decide to become a patron, like Blu-ray digital copy codes that I give away to my patrons every single week for every movie that I buy, and the exclusive ability to choose reviews or topics for a video for me to do. That is all patron exclusive, guys, so check that out if you are interested, and if you want to check out some more of my videos, you can check out a few more by clicking right over here.